Welcome into Boxing Scene today. One of the things that is continually dramatic outside of the ring is the relationship between Vergil Ortiz and Golden Boy, the promotion versus fighter duel that has wide-reaching implications. Why? Zufa, of course, claiming that obviously other promotions aren't doing their job well, Oscar De La Hoya being among them, another fractured relationship between Golden Boy and a star. Now, they might go to mediation. They might settle it before that. Precedent says, and according to Boxing Scene, that they will probably come to an arrangement before the mediation. But the idea that Vergil Ortiz has publicly said, I'm done with Golden Boy. What could that mean moving forward? Jimmy Smith alongside the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi. Folks, Paulie, you talk about it all the time, that we live in a social media era. But one of the problems with that is people say things publicly that define a private relationship. Is it a point of no return when a fighter says, I'm done with my promoter? Or does money make everybody friends in the end? What's the deal, Paulie?
Yeah, it's a business, and sometimes, the litigation can be very, very difficult, very violent at the negotiating table, shall I say.
It'd be expensive, too.
It can be expensive.
Yeah.
Champ, you would know, right? I can't say it's fractured permanently because money makes everything better. If everything comes together, if everything at the negotiating table comes together, and then the money is made right. Listen, we've seen situations where fighters have stayed with promoters after not being happy. And sometimes the terms are better. Sometimes they're just forced into it because the contracts are decided that way by the judge or by the arbitration. Either way, you got to make lemons out of lemonade. So whatever situation winds up happening here, I think it's in the best interest for both parties to, make it work out if they do have to stay together. If they don't, well then, you go in your own direction and that's it. Both sides go in their own direction and that's it. But I think in the interim, happy or not, if it's going to wind up that they stay together, then it's best for both parties to sort of try to make it work as best as possible within the structure that the decisions have been made.
Now, Chris, is this different than the Ryan Garcia situation, who complained a lot, was complaining about Golden Boy and Oscar De La Hoya, but didn't have a specific fight to necessarily rally around? And Ryan was doing a lot of stuff. He was behaving oddly outside of the ring, so we kind of went, oh, this guy's just a little bit off and just kind of talking about everything. There wasn't this specific fight, kind of this red line, this line in the sand between promoter and fighter that we're seeing here. Is it a similar situation or is it different?
I think it's both. I think it's similar in that, obviously it's a promoter and a fighter schism in terms of where they see where their career is going, where the fighter's career is going, and what's best for the company. But I think it's a personality difference because of Ryan versus Vergil. I think Ryan is a lot like Oscar, and I think they have a lot of that interweaving personality traits that make them stars, but also make them a little bit manic, and they can butt heads and they can have some strife. But Vergil's solid. Like, he's a very different personality. He's straight and narrow. He stays the true track. And is very focused on moving forward. So maybe just dealing with a little bit of the windy road that tends to happen in boxing careers is making him itchy. And then finally, this fight was the straw that broke the camel's back. And now we're seeing the struggle really come to surface. And then him going out there and saying, like, I'm done with Golden Boy. I look at that. I'm thinking a couple different things. I'm like, all right, is he personally done with this company and this guy? And like, he's just like, you know what, I can't trust this moving forward on that personal level. Or is it like, my lawyers are telling me we are winning this thing and we're going to go forward with it. I'm going to stick to my guns. We got the contract. We got the everything in place to move forward. Because listen, I've been in these situations. Lawyers always say that. They always say we got a strong case. Because you got a strong case, you're still going to pay them until we get to that position. And then if we don't get in arbitration, we don't get the decision we want.
That's why the lawyer tells you got a strong case. He wants you getting paid.
Right,
That's exactly my point. Exactly my point. As it gets closer, that's when the lawyer starts dropping hints like, you never know how it's going to go. Yeah. Whoa. 2 months ago, you were telling me we can't lose.
This is a slam dunk.
Because you needed that deposit.
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly. So these kind of things always make me feel kind of tricky. And this is the tough part about being so much access to athletes. Is because they can say things off the whim, and then it becomes a headline. Like, does he
That's
really
what we're talking
mean
about.
that?
No.
And again, we have to look through the line. Decipher between the lines what's true and what's not.
I've seen these kind of situations go in both directions. I've seen situations where obviously the fighter wants more done by the promoter and the promoter doesn't do it, but the promoter, despite not holding up their end, will fight tooth and nail to keep that fighter under contract because they don't care about ethics. They want to make money, and that's an investment they have, right? And I've seen it on the other side as well, where a fighter thinks the promoter should be doing more for them, but there's nothing really more to do when the fighter's just not that good or not at that level or not marketable enough or so on and so forth. And they want to leave because they think somebody else can do better. But in reality, they're not really bringing anything to the table where the grass is going to be green on the other side. So I've seen these cases in both directions. And, you really, until you get into the nitty gritty and the fine print, you don't know which one it is. A lot of times, we're hearing a lot of rumors in this particular situation. Champ, I know you mentioned we would love to have somebody
from either
side come on the show and talk if they can. Maybe there's some gag orders right now because of an ongoing case and they're not able to. So we're left here up to speculation. But I will say I've seen this kind of thing going both directions,
But I want to address that for just 1 second. I've worked for every major combat sports organization in the world. I don't talk a lot about what happened there and my experiences there, because why would I? Nothing good comes out of everything can be taken out of context. Everything can be blown up. I don't do that. One time when I was done with the WWE, all I said was the WWE. It was about DC, and he didn't get a big pop. Like, he came on, he was refereeing a match, and the crowd.
Daniel Cormier.
I'm sorry. For the non-MMA people, Daniel Cormier, DC.
I got your back.
Right.
I got you.
So anyway, he was on screen. The crowd didn't react that much. They just, And then he refereed this match, and I go, and they were talking about DC going to the WWE, and I go, you have to look a certain way to make it in the WWE. DC doesn't look like that. He's got kind of a dad bod, can thrash everybody,
to beat everyone up in the
everybody up in the with one hand tied behind his back, but he doesn't look like Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns looks like
you gotta look like an action figure.
You got to look like an action figure, and the headline was like, former commentator says WWE athletes can't fight or something. I just said, no, you have to look the part. Whether you don't have to be a badass, but you have to look like one. Everybody, and I went, see what happens when you say, and I was like, that is absurd. That's not at all what I said. It's just interesting the aesthetics of WWE. We have to look at an action figure and a real athlete where you and I can tell the difference and go, that guy can really throw down. It's a different kind of build, right?
Well, Tyson Fury in the dad bod, right?
Tyson Fury could destroy. Look at.
I mean, we got a lot of them right now. Zerto Ramirez. We have, David Benavidez.
Andrew Ruiz was heavyweight champion.
Andrew Ruiz.
Who just got criticized? Navarrete. They're like, oh, he's a little thick. Yeah. I'm like, dude, he just destroyed.
Meanwhile, that's one of the better physiques he's ever shown.
Remember Adam Konecki? He was a top contender too.
Right.
And I remember Adam used to laugh about it. He used to say the dad bod is in right now.
Fedor Emelianenko, a little pudgy dude, destroyed everybody.
Yeah.
But my point is, right, to go back to what we're talking about is anything you say publicly can and will be used against you.
Yeah.
And it's this idea that Vergil may have not been listening. Like, if I were Rick Meridian, I go, look, don't say anything publicly. We'll handle this. Lawyers will handle it. Try and stay out of it as much as you possibly can, because it never helps, Chris. Is that just good advice that maybe Vergil either isn't getting or didn't listen to?
No,
it never helps.
It's just like you said, even an off-the-cuff comment can become a headline that everyone's going to talk about because you're at that star status. And especially when you've got the media all around you the way that this fight and these fighters do. It's just a very tricky time right now. And I think you got to be careful, but at the same time, the news minute's a minute, and even though you might say something off the cuff that goes one way, I mean, how many times have we seen that? Guys say this, guys say that, and then look where we are. Like Ryan Garcia is a perfect example. He said a bunch of things in the history of his career that have gotten him some hot water. Well, he's a world champion on top of the world right now, so and he's riding very, very high. So boxing's always, what have you done for me lately? So this is the flavor of the moment right now, and maybe he said something, but we don't really know what he meant. In terms of, is this a lasting thing? Is this a personal thing? Is this a business thing? And it's hard to say. And it's only listen, this is why we do this every day, because it changes every day. We get more information every day. And that's why everyone is so locked in on this stuff, because it is to the minute.
When you look at the public perception of Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy, the difference of Ryan Garcia, to your point, has said a lot of weird stuff. The breakup,
so does Oscar,
right? And so does Oscar. But the difficulty can be seen as, well, they're both a little nuts. Maybe it's a personality thing, too big egos involved. Paulie, we don't know Vergil Ortiz Jr. personally. We've spent time with him. We've been on the road. He's been there. nice, humble, quiet guy, solid
dude,
as Chris talked about. You and I hear rumors about his training. Coach Robert Garcia, obviously a friend of the show, has been on the show many times as his coach, and he said nothing but dude puts his head down and works, and isn't out partying, doing stuff in the street. This guy saying, I'm done with Golden Boy, does it carry a little more gravity? Because he's a hard-working Mexican-American kid, almost the stereotype.
Frustration will make us vent sometimes, and I think it's just frustration for Ortiz. You're not, every day that passes, you're getting a little older, and your window in boxing is small, so you want to work things out. You want to work things out to the best of the ability of your career, and sometimes you feel like, you can't maximize what you bring to the table with a certain promoter, with a certain manager. I don't know, I will say this, if Golden Boy is able to get a TV deal, they're in much better position. But if not, my question would be to Oscar, would you in your career stay with a promoter that had no TV deal? You know what I'm saying? Because Oscar had obviously a monstrous career, and obviously Oscar was marketable enough to where he got his own TV deals just on his own. He was almost like an exclusive thing to himself, sort of like Joshua was in England. I remember when Matchroom moved over to DAZN, Joshua's deal with Sky continued for a little while. He didn't move over to DAZN yet. He was his own entity, so to speak, even despite being with Matchroom. So,
when you're that big, you have your own orbit.
Yeah, so Oscar kind of had his own orbit, but if Oscar for a moment could maybe step out of that orbit into the normal fighter's orbit, even a normal championship fighter's orbit, I would ask him what his thoughts would be on that. Would he expect himself to stay with a promoter who had no TV deal, despite being a world-class fighter that he was, just like Vergil is a world-class fighter that he is. Could he expect from such a promoter to be able to give him the best, to match the talent and the ability of him as a fighter, if that promoter had no TV days? Just like Vergil is expecting the promoter to come up with the talent and the ability to match his talent and ability, so it comes together. And I think that starts with a TV deal. You reach a world-class level and then your promoter has no TV deal. I've been there, bro. It's one of the most frustrating things in the world. It is very, very frustrating.
3 fighters in a row, 3 top fighters for Golden Boy, right? Which is Canelo, Ryan Garcia, and now Vergil Ortiz Jr. having various levels of disagreement with Golden Boy and De La Hoya, all with very different personalities. Canelo a little bit quieter, right? But a huge star in his own right. Vergil trying to get to that star status, but also a humble, hardworking kid as far as we're concerned. Ryan Garcia, a bit all over the place, a bit wild. It's this idea that it's not good that it's 3 in a row. It's not good that they're all different kinds of personality. You can't blame it on one kind of personality type that's been a problem. It's the reputation of Golden Boy is damaged,
Jimmy,
even if it isn't their fault. Yeah.
It's also the question you asked before: does money make everything better? A TV
with
deal,
Ryan, it seems to be helping.
A TV deal is money makes everything better. A TV deal, Golden Boy locking in a major TV deal, makes everything better for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, automatically you're going to start not only making the fighters under your stable happy, but more fighters will join up again, and they'll be signing with you, and so on and so forth. A TV deal changes the game. A promoter with a major, especially a major TV deal, and that's essentially what separates the pretenders and the contenders of the promotional game.
And I also find that grudges tend not to last in this sport because the talent pool and the population is so small. If the deals can be made and everything's good, if everybody's making money, everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. Promoter, fighter, you name it. But to your point about those 3 fighters, those are all really different guys. And I don't even mean personally, I mean even levels of stardom.
Yeah.
Canelo, again, he's a guy who has his own orbit. Ryan, who's a very, very big star, but not quite as big as Canelo was at that time. And then Vergil, again, he's a guy, I think his skill level, it completely overshines his public persona and profile. So very, very different guys in terms of that. And to your point, Champ, yeah, I think that's really the sticking point. We haven't heard a lot of griping between Vergil and Oscar until this point, which Vergil has a very good point. If you don't have a TV for me, 1, it's in my contract. If there's no TV deal, then you're in breach. And 2, it's like he's literally at the cusp of as big as he can be.
To explain it to people at home, if your promoter doesn't have a TV deal, the only way you're getting a major TV fight is if you are brought in as an opponent for somebody else's star, a promoter who has the TV deal and needs to use an opponent. And there's a catch-22 there because, okay, you can make the money, but you have no say in terms of negotiation. But also, if you're too good, no promoter picks you as the opponent. You know,
they don't want to bring you on to beat their guy.
They're not gonna bring you on and beat their guy. So you'll actually be ostracized. You know, you have to be good enough to be put in that spot, but not too good to win. And so you're always kind of having to take fights that may not be to your best advantage, or you're not able to take fights that may be able to promote you to the best of the ability of being promoted, because you're what's called a provision of services, POS it's called, and POS not the POS you're thinking about.
Different POS,
provision of services, where basically the promoter gives your services to the other promoter.
The service, that being the fighter. That's what people have to understand. The provision of services is the service is actually you offering your fighter to fight on your show. Similar to how when I fought Ruslan Provodnikov, negotiating power was zilch.
Yeah.
It was zero. You're lucky to get this shot. Go in there. You're 15-1 underdog.
Yeah, that's the dates. That's the only dates you're getting when you're with a POS promoter, essentially, who has no dates. I had that with the Bell Entertainment. But no dates at all. So
this one's funny because Oscar is a big promoter and had a TV deal.
Oscar had major TV
deal.
As a matter of fact, when I signed with Golden Boy, that was the reason I signed with them.
But DeBella and Joe DeGuardia, when we were with them and we had to be the POS, was that they weren't big enough to put on a show that could handle our level, our stature at that time. And then they had to go to Top Rank. They had to go to Golden Boy. They had to go to other
When I signed with DBE early in my career, they had a lot of HBO dates. They had a lot of TV deals. By the time my career arc went into that world-class level where I was able to fight at a world-class level, he had no TV dates left at that high level. The company had been already dipping and continued to dip. So, it couldn't match what I was looking for, and that caused those problems. But, it's a business. Listen, I mean, there's pros and cons to every situation. You hope this gets worked out. From the outside looking in, you as a fan, you want to see Vergil Ortiz active. You want to see Vergil Ortiz fighting. But I also think Golden Boy Promotions remaining a competitor at the high level, the business is also good for boxing as well. So you from somebody who's on the outside looking in, I hope this thing can be worked out in a way where both sides could win.
Well, when you talk about stardom, you talk about the ability to call your own shot. It's always been in the boxing world one of those things where you have to make it in the United States in order to be a star. Well, that could be changing now with YouTube and everyone knowing about every fighter everywhere. But the monster, Naoya Inoue, one of the debates here is, can he be big fighting in Japan, or are you just big in Japan? Well, Shushu Carrington, coming off a great win, a 9th round knockout, that was at Masculine Garden over Castro, has said that Naoya Inoue isn't big until he wins in New York. He's got to beat me in order to up his profile. That's big talk at 17-0. Chris, I see you laughing, but this is a kid who's flying high, feeling good, coming off a great win. You got to shoot your shot, right?
That's not even just it. The kid's brilliant.
Yeah,
he's doing such a great job to angle himself into these positions to get these. He talked himself into his title fight that he just earned, and it was a great performance, of course. He earned his way into it, but also he showed up at everything. He put in the groundwork. Granted, he does the work. He does the work in the gym. Granted, he has the talent to be a champion, and he earned it properly and won by amazing knockout a couple weeks ago. But he really moved the needle very fast, because you couldn't turn on anything boxing related and not see Shushu going like, yo, I'm the guy, fight me next. He was calling out everybody. He was at Espinosa's fights. He was at Inoue's fights. He's saying that he wants every one of those guys to fight him. He wants all the smoke, exactly the way you want a champion to act. But in terms of what he's saying, I don't necessarily agree. I think Inoue's already a star. He's already a global star. I've been to a lot of Inoue fights. This guy sells out the Tokyo Dome. This guy, it comes to Vegas. I called the Vegas fight when he fought Cardenas, and the place was packed. The place was rip roaring. I mean, yeah, Inoue's already a star, but listen, if you're trying to get a fight with the monster, this is a good way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's him shooting his shot, and
in some
ways, he has a point. Listen, there was a time where you had to come to the U.S. and make it big in the U.S. to be a star. I do think that time has passed, but there's still a nostalgia about that feeling. So, I don't think it's completely out of the realm to at least put it out there and say, no, you gotta be big in America. You're big in Japan, but you gotta be big in New York. It's worth putting out there. If you're fishing for the big opportunity.
Well, from the right mouthpiece, it actually sets a tone.
Exactly, and he's a world champion, so it is the right mouthpiece.
He's a great
it's
mouthpiece.
Not just somebody random fighter who's never going to get a shot anyway, trying to put himself out there. It's somebody who's, like you said, put in the groundwork, done the work, got the results, and now he's like, okay, I have a right to say this because I'm on this level, and my word is going to mean something if I say it. So you know what? Whether you agree with it or not, I have a right to say this, and he does have some points. I don't necessarily agree with it either, Champ, but there is a point to make there. There's something to think about when he says that.
He's in the room saying this, where we always talk about being in the room. He's in the room. He's not knocking on the door on the outside saying it, so it matters.
He's not yelling it. Yeah, he can say right. He can be right in the room, and Inoue can hear him, and Inoue can pay attention because he knows who he is. I'll say this: I probably first met Shushu when he was maybe 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah, he's been around forever. Yep.
The fact that this is a grown man with a world championship just blows my mind. I'm freaking old, man. Like, that's crazy. I remember this kid with belts bigger than him. He was wearing these little belts in the amateurs, and these belts are too big for him to carry. And he's carrying like a handful of them on his shoulders. I was like, how does he even stand up? He's got too many belts because he would bring them everywhere. What I'm getting at is that Shushu has loved boxing ever since I know him. And his enthusiasm and passion for the sport continues to just expand itself. Like, this is him not just looking for the big shot and obviously looking to get a big payday and all that. It's also his genuine love for wanting to try to continue to pursue greatness, his genuine love for trying to get the biggest moments possible. This is why you started doing this when you're a kid, and you had all these dreams, and this is why you always had this. It was a cute chip on his shoulder when he was a kid, because he was a little kid and he was doing it. But now it's a serious chip, but still a mature and poised chip.
I was going to say, it's not just a passionate enthusiasm he's being very intelligent. The way he's moving his chess pieces. The kid's playing chess. He's been learning. Yeah. Yes, he's been passionate about the sport. He's been involved since he could walk, but he's watched how this sport and business moved, and he's playing it like a fiddle.
Yeah, and he's done all the things in his life to, get the best benefit, sign with a major promoter, move to Vegas from New York so he could get the best training possible, because, the New York scene in boxing isn't what it was like when I was coming up, or even when you were coming up, right? So
I was at the very tail end.
A lot of us, you get the sparring on the West Coast now, and
I left too. I left when I was 10-0.
Yeah, and Shushu wound up going, and Carrington and wound up going. So, I don't know if this is going to wind up resulting in him getting a shot at Inoue. It's a good possibility because Inoue's fast running out of opposition. It's difficult to find guys that test him. Nakatani could change the whole game here.
Yeah.
I mean, you could easily just switch Nakatani and Inoue's name if you're Carrington, because he's going to be looking for the biggest fight possible. So if Nakatani knocks off Inoue, he'll just be looking for Nakatani. And he could say the same thing about Nakatani if that's what he believes, right?
And either way, bring him to the Garden, just like Shushu said.
I will say this, guys. I hate to burst everybody's bubble, but there's a reason guys like Mayweather never fought in New York. The taxes are too high.
Yeah, the Garden's expensive.
The greatest fighters of the generations definitely fighting in Madison Square Garden, to where it was a part of sort of a rite of passage. Those days are over, cuz. I mean,
but dude,
I'm going to talk like Guido. Those days are over,
everyone for everywhere else wants to fight in the Garden, though.
I hear you. Until your taxes are 6 and 7 figure differences, and then you're like, you know what? I want to fight, but I don't want to fight that bad.
Well, we got a question here. Matt Borgerson sent this one in. So with Ortiz leaving Golden Boy abruptly, does he end up paying a severance fee from his contract? How does this in any way help him with the Boots fight? Join us in the super chat, by the way. Read your questions on air.
Well, you don't know if he's leaving, number one.
Well, first of all, we don't know that yet.
And then number two, the severance package or non-severance package would be decided by the arbitration judge. They would be decided in the litigation.
Again, this is all going to come down to the nuts and bolts of the contract. But if the grounds for Ortiz to leave, which we're not saying he is, and none of these reports have said that in as many words, it depends what the grounds are. If it's a breach of contract from the Golden Boy side, there's probably not going to be any kind of money going back and forth, especially from Vergil to the promotion. But again, these are things that we are not privy to and probably never will be. Maybe after the fact.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no saying, like we even said, you even said it, champ, but there's a good chance that Oscar and Vergil, Golden Boy Promotions and Team Vergil Ortiz comes together and makes this fight. It's still possible. We're not throwing everything out.
And he's trying to get the DAZN deals. You said getting on TV. He's trying to get back on DAZN.
Yeah.
That might.
And that's what we were talking about earlier. If Golden Boy winds up with a major TV contract,
He can remedy all this.
You remedy all this. I think you know, like you said earlier, money fixes everything, right? So you get the exposure, you get the money. Not only do you possibly fix things with Ryan and Vergil, now you may even attract other big stars to your stable.
What's the number one reason for a divorce?
What?
Money.
Yeah. I was going to say cheating.
No,
but,
no,
it is not. Infidelity
no.
is not.
Infidelity
Statistically,
is not.
no.
Right?
It is money.
It's money.
So what you saying? The money leads to the infidelity?
Probably a lot, maybe, but
infidelity may be the way out. Money's the issue, and then infidelity is the way out. But if the money comes back in, maybe we have a happy honeymoon.
Guys, you know what was one of the best piece of advice I ever heard, the best statement about life? It said, money can't buy happiness, but it can buy a boat big enough to pull up right next to it. I had a rich guy tell me, he goes, money can't buy happiness. Buy a boat, you can pull up right next to it.
I've heard money can't buy happiness, but poverty will make you miserable.
Poverty doesn't buy anything. It's very, very true. Got another question. Once again, Matt Borgerson, give us a shout on Super Chat. I don't think we see Inoue at 126. I'd imagine he'd at least rematch Nakatani should he lose, or if the fight sells as well as we expect it to. Or look at the Bam Avenue next with Nick Ball gone and Shushu being a little bit green.
Yeah, I mean, he's
By
got
the way,
some
good question.
He's got some good
question.
points.
Yeah.
He's got some good points. This is just Shushu shooting his shot, but yeah, those are all viable things, and
a little seasoning though for Shushu,
maybe even less
couple more
risky
fights?
because Shushu's bigger.
Yeah.
So Bam is smaller, Nakatani's smaller, and is a bigger name. Bam is smaller and is a bigger name, so bigger reward, less risk maybe than Shushu in that way.
Yeah.
Because Shushu can fight, and I'm not saying
punch too.
Shushu, and he can punch a little bit. I'm not saying Shushu. Right now you make him. Oh, he's better than Nakatani. He's better than Bam. That's not what I'm saying. But Shushu's world class, definitively world class, and he's proven it thus far. He's improving every fight, and he's bigger.
Yeah,
he's bigger, which is always and Inoue's already been up several weight classes.
Inoue's small for 22.
Yeah,
guys. We've seen him on the other side of the
so naturally, Shushu likes his chances and he wants his chance at greatness, but Inoue's going to have a lot of options.
Inoue's the kind of guy that what's going to beat him is timing. And I don't mean timing of the fighter. I mean timing of his career.
Father Time's undefeated.
Yeah, because he's just...
Or too many weight classes up, like Ray Robinson.
It's another timing situation. Because if he has it in his mind that he's going to fight in 26, because he has gone on record saying that I'm going to fight at 126, but he also said that's going to be his last weight class. And he's the kind of guy, I mean, he's Japanese. What he says, he does.
Remember they were talking about...
Him and Gervonta.
Yeah, you knew I was going there, right?
People would ask me about that, and I would shoot it down so fast. It was like, what do you
ask you about that? Espinosa was like trying to chase it when he was on Showtime. He was making public statements. Absolutely shameless. I don't know. But then again, are you surprised? But seeing where that went.
As you said, Naoya Inoue having all of the options, not a lot necessarily in his weight class, but around his weight class, and when you make that move and what guy moves at the right time, crucial over the next stage of his career, Chris. There's no other way to say it. What will the Nakatani fight tell us? Obviously, we'll break it down as it gets a little bit closer, but what will the Nakatani fight tell you maybe about his future? Because he has run in, Neri dropped him. Obviously dominated the rest of the fight, but as he moves up, we're seeing the vulnerabilities of his all-action style. What does the Nakatani... Cardenas hurt him?
Depends on what happens.
Yeah. No, and that's like... I know I know we hate doing it on this show, but putting the cart before the horse, but I don't think we can look past Nakatani at all. I know Nakatani did not impress his last fight. I know that's wearing on everyone's mind.
That guy was rough too.
That guy was very rough, and it's just
Pizarro his name was or something. That guy,
out of nowhere.
We shouldn't forget that guy's
name. That
guy was rough.
We need to be careful about looking past that. I don't think we should because we were so excited about this matchup. We finally get it, and they're going to be on the same card together to move towards each other. They both get the win, hopefully, and then Nakatani has a subpar performance, and now we're like, all right, well, what's Inoue going to do next after he beats Nakatani? It's not a foregone conclusion. This is the fight, and they could fight multiple times if it is a good fight. So there's a lot to discover on the Nakatani fight, and we're not going to know until then.
All right, so got a special guest joining us. What about his boxing knowledge, everything he brings in? Breadman Edwards, great coach. Once again, a great boxing mind. Don't know how much of this discussion you heard, man, but I got to bring you in on it, talking about the monster Naoya Inoue and his next step. No matter what happens in the Nakatani fight, but so many great fighters come around that division. What's your thought on it, man?
I'm a big fan in a way.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Yeah.
I think he's special. I think he's still in his prime, but I think he's on the other side of his peak, which is a little bit different. Action fighters who are punchers who, they need a lot of energy and high volume. When they get in their early 30s, this is around the time where they might slip a little bit. I've been watching him for years, and I think he's a little bit on the other side and a little bit undersized for 122 because he did start out at 108. But, man, if that guy was 147 pounds, boxing history might look a little bit different because there is a size bias in boxing. But he's a special fighter. I'm a big fan of his.
Another thing, when we talk about the relationship between promoters and fighters, Jai Opetaia is saying publicly, Eddie Hearn is not my mate. He's not my friend. He's been dragging me through the mud, obviously promoting very much his relationship with Zufa, about that breakup between promoter and fighter. I'll get to Breadman in a second. Chris, your thoughts on what he's saying and really solidifying his partnership with Zufa. What's your thought?
Well, we spoke about this yesterday, Champ.
Yeah.
You had heard some things in Australia about Jai and his marketability and whatnot, and then Eddie has been coming out and saying similar things. But yeah, listen, promoters tend to do this. When you're on the same side as a promoter, they talk you up, and as soon as you step over the line, then it's down. So Eddie just wearing his promoter hat. He's also Eddie Hearn is at ends with Zufa and Dana, so they're butting heads. So that's another fighter that's going to their side. So Eddie doing his promotional thing, because again, I spoke this about Eddie. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Eddie seems to have personal relationships with some of his fighters. Jai doesn't seem like to be one of those guys. So he has stepped over the line. So in Eddie's mind, he's an enemy.
But this idea, Breadman, I got to ask you, because to Chris's point, when Conor Benn stepped over the line and signed a one-fight deal with Zufa for a reported $15 million, he kind of went, man, that really hurts. Mm-hmm. It sucks. I'm not sleeping well at night. It said, of course, Dana White, using words about vaginas to describe Eddie Hearn about his behavior concerning that step over. But with Jai Opetaia, it's more, he never sold, I didn't need him. The language and the verbiage, very, very different, Breadman. What do you think of it?
Honestly, I didn't read it or hear it. So I don't like to speak on things I didn't hear. I didn't hear Eddie Hearn say anything about Jai Opetaia, but I have been looking forward to seeing him because I think he may be the best cruiserweight in the world, but we just, he hasn't had a chance to prove it. So I've been looking forward to seeing him, but I didn't even know that him and Eddie had a falling out.
Let's see what Zufa can do with Jai.
Huge.
This is the point that I think Jai is making is, okay, Eddie I did see a quote where Eddie said, I lost money on every Opetaia fight I promoted, and like I said, I heard some things in Australia where he doesn't sell well, but maybe that is something that maybe a company like Zufa can, calibrate better, can balance out better. This is Dana White has been called the best promoter in the world by Max Kellerman, and I tend to disagree, but nonetheless, this is a chance to show it now because Jai is a phenomenal fighter, one of the best in the world, a top 10 or 15 pound for pound possibly, right? Would you guys agree?
Yeah, probably 15,
so, and he's not been marketed maybe, or he's not getting the notoriety possibly that a guy of that level should be getting. So this is Jai getting a chance to now change to a team that is promising a lot of things, changing over to a team that is saying a lot of things about themselves, but also promising a lot of things to Jai. So let's see with the this is sort of the litmus test for Zufa, because you have a guy now with all the potential in the world, but he's not selling the way he needs to. Okay, well, make it right. And now you got a chance to make it right. It's not Conor Benn, who like I said, his popularity way over exceeds how good of a fighter he is.
Yeah.
For me, it way over exceeds it. So popularity at this point matters a lot, and then you got a popular fighter. But with Jai, you have to do a job now. Let's see how good of a promoter you actually are, or if you're just like everybody else. Because Jai can fight, and Jai, there's a product there that has a lot of potential, and he's bona fide world championship and one of the best world champions in the world. So Jai is optimistic from what he's saying, right? From what he seems to be saying about his future with Zufa. Let's see if Zufa lives up to the hype now. Jai is the perfect litmus test for Zufa to see if Zufa is going to live up to the hype of what they're saying, or if they're going to be like everybody else.
I agree, Paulie. I agree.
I was always fascinated when I was at the WWE with when an athlete who could do a lot of stuff in the ring, right? They had great balance, they had great time, they do all the moves, they could do everything. And I remember hearing backstage, well, we don't have a character for this guy, we don't have a spot for him, because they have characters that they build rivalries with different guys, and well, we really don't have a spot for him. And I remember thinking, whose fault is that? Isn't that your job? Doesn't he do everything he needs to in the ring? He communicates with the fans, he does all this stuff.
Job,
well, we really don't have a spot for him. Like, well, it's almost like Gary Oldman's one of my favorite actors, right? I love Gary Oldman. When Gary Oldman's in a movie, you write a part for him. He's that good. The fact that you don't have a part for Gary Oldman, well, that's a scriptwriter's problem. That isn't Gary Oldman's problem. Yeah. I always wondered that. When Bob Arum talked about Terrence Crawford, when, we couldn't make a start, we lost money on his fights, and you had a pound for pound great. Yeah. Whose fault is that we couldn't make money? I know it's a tough question, but when you say, well, we lost money on Jai Opetaia, well, he's laying guys out. He's a pound for pound fighter. He's doing his job. He's doing great. Is it his fault or your fault that we lost money on him? Well, I know it's a complicated question.
It is complicated. And some guys are more marketable than others, and there's less work to do.
It's not my fault.
Again,
I'm knocking
the Conor
guys
Ben
out.
situation, Conor's marketable for a lot of reasons, but a big reason is because the father, okay? Yeah. I'll say the term promoter in boxing is heavily overused because
it's also a misnomer.
It's a misnomer, exactly, and that's what I was gonna get at. Promoters aren't really promoters because they typically don't promote anything. They just book fights. They're more what I would call booking agents than promoters, and
fair.
And so when the promoter is a very deceptive word to use. Now, some promoters do create a lot of stars, and you brought up Bob Arum. Bob Arum is probably responsible.
Probably the star maker of
probably creating the biggest stars of the last 30 years. You figure De La Hoya out of the amateurs, Cotto out of the amateurs, Mayweather out of the amateurs. Yep. So that company does have a track record of building stars. Even Crawford out of the amateurs, despite the fact that some of these guys became bigger after they left Top Rank, like Mayweather and Crawford. But nonetheless, it's something that I'm curious now about Zufa, because Zufa has come into the game saying they're gonna do it differently. So are you gonna be booking agents? Or are you gonna be promoters? We're gonna find out if Dana White was the guy he's hyped up to be because of the UFC's popularity, or if that was just because there was no other competition in MMA, and so you're the only game in town, and people like MMA, and that's it. So because this was always bound to happen. This was always gonna come to a head, because in boxing there's a lot more competition than in MMA as far as rival companies. So now you're gonna have to be a promoter. You're gonna have to be a real promoter, not the word promoter. Especially in the case of Jai, you're perfect. Again, I will repeat, it's the perfect litmus test. You have a fighter who has it all. Make him into a star.
This idea, Breadman, I want to throw it back to you, because when in the 80s and 90s, right, when I was a kid, a young adult, certain weight classes were transition weight classes. You might move through it to get somewhere else, but the stars were at 47. The stars were at middleweight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 140 pounds all time. Aaron Pryor didn't get the love he deserved because 140 pounds. Not a lot of people stopped at 140 pounds. He did. The difficulty in making a star at a typically non-star weight class, and cruiserweight has been one of those where great heavyweights have moved through cruiserweight. Not many have stayed in cruiserweight and made their name there. Does it add to the difficulties, Breadman?
I think it does. I agree with Paulie. This is the perfect litmus test. The two best cruiserweights we've ever seen with our eyes are Holyfield and Usyk. And both of those guys moved up to heavyweight before they had 20 pro fights, because that's where the action, that's where the money is, and that's where the stars are born. Michael Spinks skipped over cruiserweight and went straight to heavyweight. We have never really had a superstar at cruiserweight, but Jai Opetaia is a good-looking kid. He's a knockout artist. He fights in an exciting style. He has an undefeated record. Zufa Boxing has something to work with, and this is I don't want to say if it's going to be difficult or not because they may turn him into a star. I'm optimistic. I want everybody to succeed in boxing because I love boxing. But this is a true test. Can you turn an Australian or New Zealand fighter? I'm not sure which one he's from.
Oceania, we'll just say.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
Okay, with the Pacific Islander heritage,
Yep.
which is, may also have some, difficulty turning that into a star. This is a true litmus test. I'm very curious to see what they do with him because I've been looking forward to seeing this kid. Like every time I see him, he looks good. He gets knockouts. He fights in the action style, and I was looking forward to a possible unification with him and Zurdo Ramirez. So, because I suspect he might be the best cruiserweight in the world, but he hasn't had a chance to prove it. So I'm interested to see because they have their work cut out for him, with this division alone.
Well, we have another super chat. Matt Borgerson, you guys failed to consider that a majority of the UFC fandom, YouTube channels, consistently bash Zufa and boxing. How can you convince a fan base that is so anti-boxing? He says, I don't think it'll work. Chris, you and I, because you started out in kickboxing, I started out in MMA, and you went to boxing. We've been around all combat sports. One of the things about Rico Verhoeven fighting Alexander Usyk that we kept saying is kickboxers already watch boxing. It doesn't draw in it's boxing fans don't know who Rico Verhoeven is. You're alienating one side that's a lot bigger to draw kickboxing fans that already watch boxing. MMA and boxing, there isn't the crossover you would think. That there is sometimes there isn't. Does that lack of crossover lead to a difficulty in success for Zufa?
I'll put it this way: with kickboxing, boxing, and I always get asked this because I'm still a big kickboxing fan, and I watch the sports all the time. You and I talk about it all the time, and I've never walked into a kickboxing gym or an MMA gym and didn't know exactly who I was because I'm a boxer and they watch boxing. Kickboxers watch boxing, but in our country, this side of the world, which is very important to make it in fight sports, as we know, everyone's like, oh, why doesn't kickbox make it here? Because there's two factions. There's boxing and there's MMA, and there's very little crossover. There's not enough market value or room to encompass another sport that kind of goes in between the two. Because it creates two very distinct factions, and they kind of go head-to-head in terms of the boxing fans and MMA fans. They're very different groups of people. So the crossover is going to be really difficult. And I don't know if that's their plan, it's not a very good plan. I think, but I don't think that's actually their plan. And you guys use this fight saying the Opetaia experiment is a litmus test. I don't. I take this as a full head-on attack on Eddie Hearn for Dana. And it's become personal that he's going to say, like, you couldn't promote this guy. This guy's got all the goods. Watch us do it. But he also has a never-ending bag of money. So he's going to be able to do that. And he's going to create this guy. He's going to bring this guy out there. And he's just going to do exactly what he's been doing for Opetaia, which is just knocking guys out. And there's no name fighters in the cruiserweight for American audiences to understand. So now you're bringing in these new people who are watching the Zufa. You're going to see Jai Opetaia, and just like you said, Breadman, good looking, super fit, super dynamic offense, knocks people out. He's knocked out his last 6 guys in a row, and they were all undefeated too. But you didn't hear about any of them. You don't know who any of them are. So they're just going to put him out there, let him do what he does, but they have the marketing arm, and they're dead focused on this guy because their talent pool right now is very low. Their roster is very, very small, and cruiserweight is a very small pond. So I think they set themselves up in a very promising position to show what
you just described is a litmus test then, because nobody else can promote cruiserweights. Nobody else is able to promote Jai. So they set themselves up.
You're thinking too short term with these guys. They don't have to prove anything. It doesn't matter. They just have to punch down, and that's what they're doing for Eddie.
Get Jai fights. Jai was already fighting. Jai wasn't not fighting. Jai didn't have a problem.
Yeah, but now you
got to do more for Jai if you're going to change it. What's the difference with what Jai was doing? Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Do you see the marketing arm?
Well, that's the litmus test. Then you got to turn him into a star. That's what he deserves.
Listen,
that's what nobody else.
The reason it's not a litmus test is because if it fails, if it's not a star, it doesn't matter. They're going to keep rolling through. This is a machine. This is a machine.
You can keep being a machine, but fans will realize you're the same.
It
old
would
machine.
help.
Yeah,
in a
but
big
you can
way
keep
if
being-
it helps.
Yeah,
You're gonna jam it down our throats, dude. Oh,
yeah,
it's
you
gonna
can do,
come
you
and
can
come
do
and
it,
come.
but you're the same old machine. Boxing has existed for over 100 years. It's not like it's the
And
new
it still
MMA
will.
thing, you know.
And it
That's what I'm
still will.
saying. So it's the same old machine. Nothing changes. Which okay, it's fine. You can hang around and you know don't just. People are gonna realize that you're not actually changing anything. It's the same old machine,
But then it
which
falls,
is fine.
But then it falls
Boxing
into
fans are
another
into that.
promotion. It becomes another promotion,
Yes,
and then
but
we have
it
another
becomes its
promoter.
own league. Now you're the same old machine, but in your own league.
If it fails that much, they'll change. They'll change the rules.
So, Breadman, I have to ask, because you're the only guy in here, I think, was old enough to remember the way I remember when Mike Tyson was coming up, right? His first 20 fights until he fought Quick Tillis, right? And actually had to go the distance. I was a kid. I was young. But I remember going, man, look at this guy, look at this guy, look at this guy. And like the old boxing kids going, yeah, who are those guys he's knocking out? I went, I don't care. He's laying guys out, that visual impact.
Yep.
And you remember it too, Breadman, was like, I don't care who that guy is. This guy from the Catskills is knocking dudes' heads off on, at the time, ABC, ESPN. You turned on TV and went, man, who is this kid?
There was nobody Mike hadn't fought yet. You know, it's not like today where you're like, oh, what if he fights this guy? What if he fights this guy?
On his way up, it was just a spectacle.
Of course it was. But eventually
spectacle.
Mike was knocking out everybody. At the time of the Mike Tyson era, the late 80s up until the Buster Douglas fight, I couldn't think of any. You can't think of anybody that he didn't fight. Maybe Witherspoon, but Witherspoon got beat by Bone Crusher. That was the reason he fought Bone Crusher instead of Witherspoon.
Yeah, please.
Paulie's right. Tyson was knocking out a lot of contenders and hardcore guys like the Jesse Fergusons and Marvis Frazier's. You know, Tyson's resume is kind of an enigma. It's a little different. He was in our face about every 6 weeks, and he was beating
every 2 weeks in the beginning.
And he was beating contenders and recognizable. I don't want to say trial horses, but like gatekeepers, like Quick Tillis, Jose Rebalta, Jesse Ferguson, Marvis Frazier. These are all guys that Tyson fought before he won the title. Mm-hmm. So it was a little bit different, although it wouldn't have mattered to me because the spectacle to see somebody that fast and that ferocious with the one-punch knockout power, you know, you would watch him fight anybody. But the contenders that he was fighting, they were recognizable.
What I'm curious about, though, are you shooting for that same, if you're Zufa, are you shooting for that same visceral kind of, man, look at this dude go to work? And I know Tyson was something special. He was up here.
Well, he already does that.
What?
He already does that. Opetaia is a beast.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't want to necessarily make the Tyson comparisons yet, but are you shooting for, Breadman, that visceral, watch this guy rip a dude's head off every week? Is that what you're shooting for?
I think we are. And he's fighting a guy by the name of Brandon Glanton.
I was going to say that, Brett, I don't want to cut you off, but let me cut you off for 1 second. You put him in with a guy he's going to go to distance with. So you did the opposite. You did the opposite just now. So that's what I'm saying about the way they promote. What did they just accomplish? Go ahead, Brett. Go finish your thought.
I think. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. I just wanted to put that in there, but go ahead.
Yeah. He's fighting a guy named Brandon Glanton, and Glanton is a puncher. He has an exciting style, and he's going to be right there for him. So I feel like this is perfect matchmaking if we want to see that train wreck that we're all talking about.
Well, Brad, maybe you cut off. You didn't hear me. I think this is the wrong guy because Brandon's not been stopped. He's durable. You want to put him in against guys who he's going to blow away like Tyson and say, oh, well, we're gonna keep watching him wreck guys. Glanton's a guy who's going to go to distance.
Yeah, but we're gonna see more of Jai. We're gonna see how dynamic he is because Glanton has one speed. He's stuck in one.
Listen,
gear.
if he stops Glanton, it's a big thing.
And he might. I actually.
You try too hard to stop Glanton, you're gonna get hit on the chin. Glanton can punch.
He can really punch. He's super durable and he's really fit. He's very conditioned. Very conditioned. Stopping him would be a really impressive feat for Jai Opetaia. But regardless, we're going to see him, even because I think it actually is going to go rounds too. At least I think it's going to actually go the distance. But we're going to see more of Jai, you know, instead of just blowing a guy out and running him over with a highlight reel knockout, which he has plenty of. We're actually going to see how dynamic his offense is. And like you said, Jimmy, you don't always have to like completely blast the guy's head off, but you'd be like, wow, this guy's offense is really special. Because Opetaia does have that. He's very athletic. But to your point, Champ, I actually do think it's going to go the distance as well. So we're going to have to see this for 12 rounds.
Now, to make another Zufa comparison, Paddy Pimblett on the way up, right? Very popular, fighter from Liverpool, had the Paddy the Batty, crowd chanting. I was asked about him on his way up, and I go, gets hit too much. I go, he's in a league where he should be crushing dudes. And he is. He's finishing them. On the way there, he's getting dropped. He's getting hit. When I see someone get hit on the way
He
up.
was telling everyone, I got a chin. You can't knock me out. No one can knock me out.
That's not a good strategy.
When you see the levels are not being dominated the way they need to be on the way up, then you realize at world class level, this guy's going to struggle.
This guy's going to have trouble.
And boxing the same way. You guys can, as he's coming up the ladder, there's levels where you're expected to dominate. You're not expected to be really tested, even if you're winning. If you're winning and you're struggling a little bit or getting hit too much, then people start to say, well,
isn't that how you did your career growing up? When I was coming up, it didn't matter who I was fighting. It didn't matter what level of guy I was. If I got hit by a guy, then I was like, "Oh, that wasn't a good night."
Yeah,
you know. Exactly. So when I was coming up, because every level step up was supposed to be, I'm supposed to be ahead of this. I'm supposed to be ahead of this. I'm supposed to be ahead of this.
Well, that's the mentality you're supposed to have. But of course, Pimblett, if he was saying, Jimmy, to take your point, he was saying, "Oh, nobody can knock me out," because what is he going to do? He's not going to defend it, saying, "Oh, I get hit too much." So
I have great defense.
He's got to figure it out in another way. He's got to sell it to you in a different way. Nobody can knock me out. This and that. But yeah, it was. Like Champ said, you have to push the people that move your career to push that button to say, okay, we got to step him up. He's too dominant. You got to step him up. He's too dominant. Well, you'll get there. You'll get there faster if you keep dominating.
It's the ProBox TV method.
Yeah.
The system is if we set you up in a 50-50 fight and you blow the guy away, all right, we got you at the wrong level. We got to ratchet it up. Yeah. If we set you up with a fight that's supposed to be tough and you blow this guy away or you dominate, all right, we got to keep ratcheting it up. Your job as a prospect, as a contender, is to completely blow everyone's expectations out of the water every time.
So that you can get to the big money fights faster.
Well, another super chat, Matt Borgerson, bringing up exactly what we were talking about. Jai has been hurt in the past 3 fights at some point. What does it say he won't get hurt in this fight and stop? I think he's a bit reckless at times. Just what we were talking about.
Bro, most offensively minded guys get hit.
What do you say? That I have stolen from you shamelessly on other broadcasts?
Gunslingers get shot. He goes for it. He throws combinations. He's explosive.
Gunslingers get shot, dude.
I'm telling you, bro. If you got to be careful. This
Brandon can punch.
Brandon can punch. We've had him on ProBox. He's one-dimensional. He's one speed. He's durable as X can get. He's physically strong.
Great conditioning.
And he'll knock your block off if he hits you on the chin. So I'm telling you, okay. So Borgerson with a good point.
What do they say? FAFO?
Yeah. F around and find out. Oh, yeah. What I'm curious about is I've done a thing at home, and I do this all the time. I'll go to YouTube, and I will pick a fighter, and I will literally watch their whole career. From first fight to last. Hagler. I'll go back and watch every Hagler.
I thought you had kids. What happened?
I know, right? I put the kids to bed, and I sit there and I watch. Yeah,
you don't sleep, huh?
It's very. I don't sleep a whole lot. But
you hang
right
upside
now,
down while you do it?
Because we've been talking about him, I've been going through De La Hoya's career. Because I remember it. I was a kid. I saw him. But I was like, man, let's go through his career again. A machine, but he did tend to get. We talked about this. He did tend to get tagged early in the fight.
He get dropped a lot.
But
Campanella, the Paisan, dropped him.
Right.
That was left hook, right? They tried left hooks.
But he was in a lighter weight class. He was cutting a lot of weight.
Way bigger than everybody, yeah.
Way bigger than everybody. At cruiserweight, where there's some thick boys that can hit, are those defensive vulnerabilities a little bit more troubling, Chris? Yes or no?
So I say it all the time.
I go all the way around the world.
We're covering like all my sayings right now. No heavyweight has a good chin because everybody hits too goddamn hard. Yeah. Cruiserweight, they hit just as hard, and they're actually usually faster.
And they're cutting sometimes.
Yeah,
so
remember Chris Bird moved down from heavyweight to cruiserweight, and he just got like blown out, and it was just like, well, whatever.
And Sean George beat him.
Yeah, but it was just like, and I've heard people say this, like, the cruiserweights generally most of the time hit just as hard as the heavyweights, but they're just actually a little quicker. So you have to get even better. It's a really dangerous, difficult weight class to be in. And Jai does cut a lot of weight. He is really big for cruiser, but so is Glanton. I don't know how much weight he cuts, but he's big for the weight class. Yeah, he's like a
short.
He's like a bridger.
He's like a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
He's very physically strong and stocky.
But again, man, he's durable, he's dangerous, and he's mean. Yeah. He's really mean. I think, this is...
A little bit one-dimensional. The Jai, you expect to have versatilities, but if Jai doesn't fight disciplined, he's...
There's openings.
It's a risk, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing here, and you talked about it, is... If you're matched up right, you move up. If you're matched up right and you give us that performance that we've been looking for, you move up. If you give us that performance we're looking for and you lose, we'll still come back.
You button and you get up.
Well, we have a show coming up March 21st. We've talked about the main event, Lester Martinez versus Emmanuel Lima, over and over and over again. One thing we haven't done a whole lot is talk about the card underneath that. And I'm looking at it right now, and I've been looking at it for a few days. I always spend some time studying beforehand. Gentlemen, this is a really good card.
What else is new, Jimmy?
Dude, full of undefeated fighters. What I'm curious about, when you look at Joshua Anton, 12-0, 11 knockouts from Palmdale in those 12 wins. Lolo Harris, who jumped on our air a little bit before,
Very
11-1, 7 knockouts. He's out of Rialto, California. Some great California fighters there. Chris, I got to ask you, who stands out to you? What matchups are you looking forward to most, man, when it comes to the Young Bucks?
That Anton fight, that's the Kujatillo, right?
Yep.
Oh man, so I've called a lot of his fight, the Uzbek.
Yeah.
He can really fight.
22-5.
Yeah, he's super solid. He had a real tough fight with Louis Collazo.
Yeah.
When Louis was still very viable. I've called a lot of his fights on undercards.
He's been around.
Yes, he's been around for a while. He was on the cusp, like right on the cusp of getting a welterweight, junior middleweight title shot. He's never been stopped at 54. He did get stopped recently, but it was at middleweight, out of his weight class. He's a 54 pounder now. Lost to the likes of like Cody Crowley, Katsurakis, the really good Greek fighter at 54.
Shows up to fight though.
Katsurakis can really punch, and he went distance with him. He shows up to fight, and he's an Uzbek. Those guys are all talented. They can all fight. They all have big amateur backgrounds. Very, very solid, very durable. This is a real test for Anton. Anton looks really good. He really does look the part, but this is the kind of guy. He's, I know we always say banana peel.
He could expose some deficiencies, I guess.
Yeah.
If there are any.
He's more than a banana peel. He's a landmine. He's a dangerous guy.
Talk about Lolo Harris a little bit. Been on our air before. Very talented guy working with Bomac. What happens when we were interviewing, if you didn't see it, we're talking to Bomac and Lester Martinez. Lester Martinez showed up. We talked to him. And then, hey, Lolo Harris is here. Do you want to sit down and talk to him? He seems focused, ready. And still at that point, Paulie, I'm going to peel back the curtain just a little bit. People always say when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. It's comparatively true, but this is a job, and how much you work at it defines how well you're going to do, but you still have to find the joy in what you're doing. Lolo Harris still has that joy in what he's doing. He's young in his career. He's excited to be where he is. I like that discipline.
He's young, and it's almost like you're talking to a kid who's having fun.
Yes.
When you speak to
exactly.
him. He's well-spoken and just has the energy to him when I hear him talk in interviews. Like he enjoys learning every day. He enjoys getting better every day. He looks forward to try to get better every day. And the only way you get better is if you work hard at it. But he enjoys it because it probably doesn't feel like work to him. He's passionate. Seems like he has a great relationship with Bomac, the trainer. And there's a good energy there in Omaha at Bomac's gym. And he's taking it all in and soaking it all in. You can tell he's absorbing that kind of energy and loving it, So, and each time we've seen him perform, honestly, Lolo Harris has looked the goods. He's looked the part. So if this kid at his age continues to mature and improve at the rate he's improving, he'll be a contender in not so distant future.
Very likable kid, and you know what's funny at this stage of this level, when you see guys like him that are popular, meaning they're ticket sellers, it speaks directly to their personality because the people who are coming know you. There's people you can touch. Once you get past that local and you start getting to selling more tickets in bigger areas, that's not it's not the personality so much or the person that it's just like I like what I see from this guy, the way he talks, the way he fights, this and that. Lolo, man, he brings people out. He brings a lot of people.
Yes,
he's gonna bring a lot of people out. That speaks to his personality, and like we said, he's a very personable guy, and man, can he fight.
When you look at, and I tell you all the time in MMA, it's very rare to get to the elite level of sport and not be at least affiliated with a major gym, right? American Top Team, AKA Jackson Wink. There are a million of them all over the place. But this idea that you're at least going there to get your sparring, you're affiliated with those coaches and with that team. And part of it is you're with killers and you realize I can hang with these guys. If I can hang with these guys, then I can definitely hang with the guys I'm going to see in whatever MMA promotion I work for. Working with Bomac, for a guy like Lolo Harris, once again, 12 fights in, the work is tough, Paulie. He's working with killers. He's working with very, very experienced guys. What does that do for your confidence level? What do you get out of that coaching if you're Lolo Harris?
Well, you get, the intelligence and the learning curve is higher, is a higher level because you have an excellent trainer with you, but you also get the great sparring where the learning curve is also at an excelled level there too because you're experiencing the learning firsthand in the ring. You're in there with a high level of competition, sparring every day. When you train with, in a lion's den full of lions, it's going to automatically force you to be sharper, more alert every single day. Because listen, it's in boxing, a bad day in the gym is getting beat up. So you're in order to avoid that, you have to show up ready, prepared every single day, go to sleep early every single night, wake up in the morning, feeling good every single day and get through the workouts every single day, all while making the progress necessary. And you have these these tools at your disposal. You have a great trainer, you have great sparring, great fighters, and a good energy overall in the gym. So I think it's a solid situation for a young fighter on the come up like Lolo Harris.
And boxing different than MMA. Like there's pockets of places like that. Like MMA, that's all their gyms are like that. It's a very team aspect. Boxing's not really like that. But we've had pockets over the years, like the Kronk gym with Manuel Stewart. Freddie Roach. With Wild Card,
Lamont Roach and his DMV team,
DMV
they're
guys,
like family there.
Robert Garcia with his gym in the RGBA, Miami in general because there's so many gyms around. Vegas just because there's so many gyms there, and New York used to be like that. It's no
Gleason's
longer.
was like that.
Gleason's was like that for a long time.
Might still be like that in LA. You know.
Yeah. So we boxing has that as well, and it's just killers. Even to a degree in Brooklyn, like with Andre Rozier and his group, also the Cops and Kids. Now we're seeing a lot of guys coming out of the Cops and Kids program. It's always got to be a system because that's the only way. Everybody gets better together. The competition is necessary for everyone to step up and to really grow. That was a big difference for me. Is once I left New York and I got into the hubs like Las Vegas and California, Robert Garcia's camp specifically, that's when my level just started to exponentially rise.
Before we were on air, we were talking about the Mexican food. I'm a connoisseur of Mexican food. I love it. I'm from Southern California. People go, why are the tacos in California so good? And I said, because you have a bad taco place, you ain't going to make it. You won't make it. If you serve bad pizza in New York, you won't make it. You're out of business.
Competition.
There's too much good pizza to have bad pizza in New York. I said, there are too many good tacos in California to have bad tacos. Similar kind of thing in a gym. How do I know he's good? He wouldn't be here. Yeah. You wouldn't be making it.
You get run out of good gyms.
You get run out in 10 minutes if you don't have balls. If you walk into an MMA gym, a kickboxing gym, or a boxing gym that is reputable, and you don't have balls to stand there and trade with or spar with or move around with or survive the workouts, you're out of there. You're not going to make it. It's survival of the fittest, right? And not just that, for Lolo Harris, seeing Crawford get that big Canelo fight, that atmosphere, the press is in your gym, people taking photos, there are people taking video of you working out with guys. I remember I was with Tito Ortiz when I first started, while he was champion, right? It's like 2000, and he was huge. He was bigger than life. People came into the gym all the time, and I'm rolling with Tito, and people are taking video and stuff. You get used to that big life, and man, I want to be there. I want to be that guy people are looking at. What does that do for you when you're coming up, just like you did, Paulie?
Well, it's the same thing. You have a chance to live out your dreams through these people and almost, I always tell people this way, I always describe it this way: you're more passionate when your dreams are in front of you than when they're behind you. Like you may still be doing it when your biggest goals have already been accomplished and you're on the other side of your prime, you're on the other side of your peak, but you're not, your emotional and psychological perspective of it isn't the same. When your goals are in front of you and you've not yet accomplished anything, there's a savagery, there's an enthusiasm, like I was talking about with Carrington earlier. Everything's in front of him still. He's living out the dream, but it's being accomplished little by little, so it's motivating, but it keeps you disciplined because your dreams are right there and they're still in front of you. You're still chasing them all. So there's a passion and enthusiasm that really is hard to describe unless you're living in that moment, and so living in that moment and then doing it under the training circumstances of a high level gym consistently, it allows you to give you that little comparison to these guys, they've accomplished what my dreams are. I'm training alongside these guys. You get to spar them. You get to see the way they are. You also get to compare yourself how you do in sparring, and then maybe it'll increase your confidence. Maybe you get to take some tips from them. You got a great trainer who's training them as well. It is a very motivating part of your career, but it's also a very happy point in your career. And boxing is not easy to make it, but when you start to make it and you start to get closer, that enthusiasm, it only helps you grow more.